Alright, hello citizens of the Nigelverse. It is Nigel once again, and this is going to be another wrestling review. More specifically, another WrestleMania review for the month of March. Of course, we've been looking at WrestleMania matches for the month of March. Some classic, we're going to have a couple that's maybe not as much, but this one definitely is. So, we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of this event, and it's going to be in a few weeks, and thus we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of the match type. Now, nowadays, we are all familiar with the Money in the Bank ladder match. Fairly simple concept. A bunch of superstars, sometimes 6, sometimes 7, sometimes 8, sometimes 10, and all fight each other, climb a ladder, retrieve the briefcase, and have about a year to cash in on. Well, for a while it was any world title that they wish, but Austin Theory proved that you can cash in on the U.S. title. He failed in his endeavor, but you can if you want to. But when did the match begin? And let's find out, and let's take a look at its origin. I'm of course talking about WrestleMania 21 as we look at the inaugural, the first ever Money in the Bank ladder match. Now, of course, as always, I'm not a professional wrestling reviewer, analyst, or anything like that, just a man who enjoys a good time, and I definitely had a really great time watching this match. Now, those of you who have been on the channel for a bit, you know I am a sucker for ladder matches. I don't even try to hide it. I am a big sucker for ladder matches. Put a bunch of people or even two people in a ladder match against each other. I'm there. Some ladder matches have been better than others over the years, but I love ladder matches, and the Money in the Bank ladder match is always a fun concept, a fun match to watch, at least for me. Like I said, some Money in the Banks were better than others, but for the most part, the Money in the Bank is always a fun ladder match. So being able to see the inaugural one, and then being able to review it for the channel is definitely going to be a treat. Now, unlike some of the other matches that we've taken a look at thus far, this isn't my first time watching this match. I actually watched it a while ago. It was a few years ago. Now that we're watching it with a fresh set of eyes, how does it hold up? And more specifically, how does it hold up almost 20 years later? Let's find out. Now, if you've seen these reviews of mine before, you kind of already know how this works. But if you haven't, I'm going to be talking about what I liked and disliked about the match. But first, how did this match type come about? The match, at least in kayfabe, was actually pitched by Chris Jericho. So Chris Jericho pitched a ladder match with 6 different superstars, and a world championship contract being held inside a briefcase, and whoever is the first to climb up and retrieve the briefcase gets a world heavyweight championship shot for about a year, up until WrestleMania 22. Now, the reason I say just World Heavyweight Championship and not World Championship just yet is because this being the first year and this being pitched by Chris Jericho, this was Raw exclusive. Only Raw was in on this one. Obviously, as the years would go on, SmackDown would be included. ECW would even be in the mix, although nobody ever cashed in on the ECW Championship because, sadly, the ECW World Championship, by the time WWE got its Scorpion little mitts on it, was only a World Championship in name and on paper. And of course, when the women had their first Money in the Bank ladder match in 2017, that would be for the women's championships, and they were also used to have the individual contracts. Now it's just the one contract for this year, but later on they'd have the individual contracts in 2010, and when they had the Money in the Bank pay-per-view event, that's when they had the dual contracts, one for Raw, one for SmackDown, and then by the time we got to 2014 was the first year they said no more just Raw and SmackDown contract. Now it's just one briefcase, one contract. And yes, Money in the Bank would be a WrestleMania staple up until 2010. In fact, they had the Money in the Bank at WrestleMania 26 in 2010. But then after that, after Jack Swagger cashed in and won the World Heavyweight Championship, and that's when they introduced the Money in the Bank event later on in the year, which is kind of strange that they introduced that event later on in the year. Why didn't, my question is, why didn't they just not have it at WrestleMania that year, or wait till the next year to introduce it at the event? That was a little bit strange to me, but yeah. So for a while, it was just at Money in the Bank, and a lot of the spots we're gonna talk about some of the spots, but a lot of the crazy moments and stuff you saw in this match would kind of go on to be repeated in Money in the Banks afterwards. So definitely excited to check this out. And right off the bat, you know it's going to be good once Kane enters in the match. So the field of competitors we have for this match are as follows: Edge, Chris Jericho, Shelton Benjamin, Chris Benoit, Christian, who is accompanied by Tyson Tomko, aka the Problem Solver, and Kane. And when Kane comes out a really cool Kane entrance, and back-to-back cool entrances for Kane in back-to-back years, both at WrestleMania 20 and WrestleMania 21. This time, instead of just the LED city on fire like we got at WrestleMania 21, this time, or at WrestleMania 20, I should say, this time here at WrestleMania 21, this time around, the ladders are on fire, which was really cool to see. Like, just the image, the visual of the ladders being on fire, or kind of an omen of things to come, perhaps. But it's also worth mentioning that a few of these people will, or actually, never mind. And I think just Kane would be the only other one to actually win a Money in the Bank ladder match. In fact, Kane won in 2010 at the aforementioned inaugural Money in the Bank pay-per-view event, and in 2010. And so Kane didn't quite win this one, but he would win later on. And that actually brings me to my first thing that I liked about the match, is that they went after Kane immediately. They saw him as the biggest threat in the match, and so pretty much the other 5 guys go after Kane immediately. I think that was pretty cool, pretty smart strategy in that regard. Or the other thing is that this field of competitors, having these men be the ones to compete in this match, I think you have a very solid field of competitors. Now, apparently, I'm gonna read the excerpt from the wiki here. It has actually, I'm just gonna read the whole thing. Another match on the card was the Money in the Bank ladder match between Chris Jericho, Christian, Chris Benoit, Edge, Kane, and Shelton Benjamin. The idea for the Money in the Bank match was introduced by Jericho, who proposed a 6-man ladder match for the event in which the winner will receive a contract for a world title match at the place and time of his choosing. Raw general manager Eric Bischoff booked the match at WrestleMania 21 soon after. According to Jericho, the first idea was a submission match between Edge, Jericho, and Benoit, and a ladder match between the other wrestlers. Now, a submission match, I can't lie, a submission match between Jericho, Benoit, and Edge. First of all, it's similar to what they've done before, because Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit, I believe, did have a submission match previously. I think that was the match, if I'm not mistaken. I could be completely wrong. I believe it was a submission match that they had at WrestleMania 17. But a submission match between Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit, and Edge at and I'm gonna look it up just to be sure. But a submission match between those 3, I don't hate that. I actually don't hate that. Like, that would have been, I think, a really cool match. Like, I think if anybody can pull that type of match off, it would be those 3. Let me see. Okay. So, Jericho faced William Regal for the Intercontinental Championship at 17, and then Benoit actually fought Kurt Angle in a singles match. So, if Jericho and Benoit did have a submission match, I'm thinking of a different event. But yeah, submission match between those 3, I don't think would have been bad. I think it would have been a little bit. I think it would have been a little bit. I don't necessarily want to say weird, but kind of like a submission match. You usually think of that as one-on-one, so a triple threat one would be kind of interesting to see. And then a ladder match just between Kane, Christian, and Shelton Benjamin. It wouldn't have been a bad match, but I feel like it But I feel like having Jericho, Christian, having Jericho, Benoit, and Edge in the mix, I think made the match even better. So a pretty solid feel when it comes to that. And of course, we're speaking of Shelton Benjamin, and there are some crazy spots, but at least a couple of them go to Shelton Benjamin, including in a very iconic spot of Jericho reaching for the contract and Shelton Benjamin running up the ladder and clotheslining Jericho off. That's been played in several highlight reels, especially in regards to Money in the Bank. And Shelton Benjamin, sadly, while he never won a Money in the Bank, he always made it more interesting, because almost any time Shelton Benjamin was in a Money in the Bank ladder match, I believe he was also in. He would also be in the one the very next year at WrestleMania 22, and then also the one at WrestleMania 24, and I believe 25 as well, if I'm not mistaken. But Shelton Benjamin, anytime he was in a Money in the Bank, he would always be up to some crazy stuff. Like, you knew if Shelton Benjamin was there, he was going to deliver, and that's one of the reasons why Shelton Benjamin is so underrated and is so criminal that he was never world champion in WWE. But nevertheless, Shelton Benjamin with some crazy spots, but he wasn't the only one, because Chris Benoit nails a whole big diving headbutt from the top of the ladder onto Kane. And they talk about Chris Benoit being stapled and stitched up, and woo, that gets immediately busted right open after the flying headbutt to Kane. Now, admittedly, it's a cool moment, but it's also kind of uncomfortable. Like, more so in hindsight, knowing what we now know about Chris Benoit, what he would later do, and the brain injuries that kind of that was kind of one of the driving factors in him doing what he did. Obviously, a lot of people point out several moments where you kind of knew maybe that would have did it. I think this is probably one of the biggest examples. So it's kind of in a way, bittersweet moment, I should say, because it's a pretty cool moment. Like it is a really cool looking moment. But knowing what you know about Chris Benoit and his brain injuries, it's like, it's also a little bit uncomfortable to see. I'm not gonna lie. But there was that, and all those combined together made for a very fun match, and just all kinds of fun action all throughout the match. Like this match had a whole lot of fun to watch, and seeing all the competitors getting up to what they get up to, the crazy spots that I mentioned, and just made for a very fun match. A match that is only about 15 minutes. It's 15 minutes 23 seconds, but it doesn't feel like it. I don't mean if it feels too short, but it also doesn't feel too long. So the pacing, I think, is very well done for this match. If I had to find something to nitpick about this match, I kind of have two that I kind of jotted down. The first being there is a scary Shelton Benjamin spot where, after taking a chokeslam to the outside, he does get his foot caught in the rope, and it does look pretty scary. Like, moments like that always definitely scare me. Between that and then when Trick Williams got caught in the ropes, I believe at Vengeance Day, just recently, when battling Eddie Thorpe, like moments like that always look pretty scary. And then the other one is that there is a moment where Christian is at the top of the ladder. This is right after Tyson Tomko is taken out by Kane, and he's got his hands on the briefcase. He's about to unhook it. Like in reality, I know it's wrestling logic, but in reality, if you're that close, you just unhook it right there. Obviously, Christian wasn't supposed to win the match, but Christian has his hand on it, not quite able to unclasp it. Which we see plenty of moments like that in later Money in the Bank ladder matches, and it always looks kind of dumb and kind of goofy. But nevertheless, there is that. And of course, I don't think I mentioned that the winner would go on. The match would go on to be not Chris Jericho, the man who came up with it, but actually Edge. So, Edge, and that is another thing I liked. Like, Edge, I think, winning was the absolute perfect choice. Honestly, you could make an argument for quite a few of these guys, but especially Edge, like him having turned heel not that long ago and really being on that main event rise. And I think this is him holding on to the briefcase until New Year's Revolution 2006, cashing John Cena right after the Elimination Chamber, and everything. I think that really helped boost Edge's career so much, was winning the briefcase, holding on to it, and I think it was this that really. I think it was around this time they started calling him the ultimate opportunist, I should say, and I think this really does kind of solidify Edge as the ultimate opportunist, like taking that opportunity to cash in on John Cena and win the WWE Championship. Definitely, and that's the other thing is, even though this was for the World Heavyweight Championship, this one would actually be cashed in on the WWE Championship. And it does make sense because at this point, the WWE Championship had moved to Raw after John Cena and Batista won their respective championships. Batista won the World Heavyweight Championship. John Cena won the WWE Championship. They would switch brands, so the WWE Championship would come to Raw with John Cena, and the World Heavyweight Championship would come to SmackDown with Batista. And on an unrelated note, I feel like that's where both the championships should stay. Maybe it's because when I started watching, that's how it was. Because the World Heavyweight Championship was on SmackDown, and the WWE Championship was on Raw. It always felt right to me having those on those brands. Like whenever they swap, because they would swap some more times with the WWE Championship being on SmackDown, and the World Heavyweight Championship being on Raw. Hell, that's kind of how it is now. How the World Heavyweight Championship is on Raw. Currently being held, of course, by Gunther, and then the WWE Championship is on SmackDown, being held by Cody Rhodes. That's always felt weird. Like something about the WWE Championship being on Raw, and then the World Heavyweight Championship being on SmackDown, it's just always felt right. You know, it made sense to me. Maybe I'm the weird one. Maybe that's just how my brain works. I know. For a while, the World Heavyweight Championship was on Raw, and then the WWE Championship was on SmackDown. And they didn't swap until 2005, but having the WWE Championship on Raw and World Championship on SmackDown just always felt right. But yeah, Edge would go on to cash in, so this really did a number for his career. And of course, the Money in the Bank would go on to boost a lot of people's careers. There were some who needed less than others, such as, say, Brock Lesnar in 2019, but otherwise, yeah. So the first Money in the Bank of what would go on to be several really good and some not so good, but go on to be several really good Money in the Bank ladder matches. But this was the first, and I'm glad I was able to finally review the first. Now, I did want to review this last year, but it didn't quite make the cut. But considering we're on the cusp of the official 20-year anniversary of the match, I'm glad I saved it till this year. But nevertheless, that's going to do it for this review. I should say. Hey, oh my goodness, I cannot talk today. But that's going to do it for this review. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor. Like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, and turn on those post notifications so you know every time I upload a video so you never miss an upload. And let me know in the comments below your thoughts on the match, my review of the match. Do you like the match? Do you like my review of the match? Let me know. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you guys later. Peace.